This is Omnivore presents SciDish, a podcast from the Institute of Food Technologists. In each episode, we take a deeper dive into a single topic shaping the future of food. Hosted by the editors of Food Technology, together with IFT members and subject matter experts, SciDish brings you the science, insights, and real-world perspectives that drive innovation, solve complex challenges, and connect disciplines across the global food system. Thanks for joining us. Let's get into the conversation.
This episode of Omnivore is brought to you by IFT FIRST, where the future of food takes shape. Join thousands of changemakers and innovators at Chicago's McCormick Place, July 13th through 16th, for the food industry's can't-miss event of the year. Connect with global leaders, experience breakthrough technologies, and be part of the conversations defining tomorrow's food landscape. Secure your spot at iftevent.org.
Welcome to the Omnivore Presents SciDish podcast, where we offer a deeper dive into the science, trends, challenges, and innovations shaping our food system. I'm your host, Julie Larson-Brisher, Food Technology Magazine's Science and Technology Editor, and today we're diving into a topic that directly impacts every plate and pantry across the country: food safety. In the past several months, we've seen a sharp uptick in food recalls affecting everything from leafy greens to frozen meals. And it's not just one culprit. Listeria, Salmonella, E. coli, and even viruses like norovirus and parasites like cyclospora are in the headlines. Is this a coincidence, or are we just facing a deeper shift in our food safety landscape? With fewer federal food inspectors, rising supply chain pressures, and emerging microbial threats, the question isn't just what's happening, it's what can be done. Today, we're joined by three leading food safety experts who bring insights from across industry, regulation, and science. We'll explore why these recalls are happening, what risks might be looming, and what businesses can do to strengthen resilience, even in a time of regulatory gaps and economic volatility. Whether you're in food manufacturing, retail, food service, or just someone who wants to trust what's on your plate, this conversation is for you. Now let's get into it. First, a round of introductions. Our first guest is Daryl Riley, who most recently served as Senior Vice President, Chief Sustainability Officer, and on the executive leadership team at Hostess Brands. He's a member of IFT's board of directors. Daryl's industry experience also includes roles as Senior Vice President of Quality, Food Safety, R&D, and Consumer Affairs with Hostess. As Vice President, R&D, Quality, and Innovation twice at Kraft Foods, and earlier in his career was Vice President, Research, Quality, and Technology at the Kellogg Company. Daryl was also president of Total Food Safety Management, a quality and food safety consulting firm assisting small to medium-sized food companies build their quality and food safety culture. Welcome, Daryl.
Hey, thanks so much, Julie. I'm glad to be part of this distinguished panel and offer any insights appropriate.
We're also happy to welcome Robin Forgey, Assistant General Merchandise Manager, Food Safety and Quality Assurance, Global Sustainability and Compliance with Costco Wholesale. Robin establishes global product quality and food safety policies, ensuring vendor compliance, and develops regulatory compliance programs for company facilities, and creates tracking systems to monitor vendor adherence for the multinational warehouse club retailer. She also oversees routine product quality and safety testing, as well as vendor and facility auditing. She serves on multiple committees working to improve food safety, including the Alliance to Stop Foodborne Illness and the Leafy Greens Food Safety Coalition. Welcome, Robin.
Hi, Julie. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm looking forward to chatting with everybody.
Great to see you. And rounding out our guest panel today, we've got Larry Keener, President and CEO of International Product Safety Consultants, a global leader in providing food safety and food technology solutions to the food processing industry for a broad client base of Fortune 500 food companies, academic research institutes, and government agencies. Larry is an internationally regarded microbiologist and process authority in the food industry, an IFT fellow, and past president of IFT's Non-Thermal Processing Division. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you, Julie. It's great to be with you guys this morning.
Well, it's wonderful to have all of you here, Daryl, Robin, and Larry. So let's dive right in. The first question to the panel is on the topic of the surge in recalls. Is this a trend or is it a data artifact? The recent rise in recalls involving the big three pathogens, Listeria, Salmonella, and E. coli, alongside norovirus and cyclospora, raises questions about systemic vulnerabilities. Is the food supply becoming riskier, or is surveillance simply improving? Let's start the conversation with Daryl. What do you think?
Yeah. Hey, it's a great question. It really is encompassing really the topic of when we think about recalls. If we take a step back, the internet has been around for about 30 years, and probably over the last 20 years, people have become very proficient globally with using it, and therefore, I think it's an element of both. I think there is an understanding that consumers are more curious about food recalls. People understand them a lot more. You mentioned, biological contamination, which is micro related. We also have undeclared allergens as well as, I would say, physical contamination as well, foreign material contamination. But what gets people's ear is typically around micro. The big three, as you mentioned, LM, Listeria monocytogenes, Salmonella, and then E. coli 0157H7. Recently in the news, the two big ones that we all know was slivered onions, and that really resulted in a really bad situation where a factory was actually permanently shut down as a result of that, as well as when we look at what transpired with deli meats. Deli meats actually was also a situation where a factory was shut down, and it was shut down due to, one would say, something that we can control, GMP. Something very simple, when you look at factories and sanitary conditions. So you want to make sure you can obviously manage that. So you look at the question, which is it really an increase, or is it just that we have better detection? In the latter part, yeah, we have much better detection and reporting mechanism. We also have more of a regulatory framework that enables that going forward. If you think about over recalls, we've had, last year about 300 recalls, resulting in numerous illnesses and hospitalizations. But what really gets people is the deaths. We have had over about 20 deaths as a result of recalls. And that should grab everybody's attention because food safety is critical, it's important, and we need to make sure that we have the right preventive systems in place in order to manage.
Daryl, I think that something that we should all pay attention to as well is that these recalls are really making the headlines these days. With the growth of the internet, as you were explaining, media outlets are always looking for more information to put out there, and they are putting out there every recall, and sometimes they're putting it out there multiple times in a row with a different headline. So I think that it's becoming much more visible to the general public, and I think it's something we all need to be cognizant of.
So yeah, Robin, that's a good point. And if I could, I'd love to ask a follow-up question. How can the industry use technology to proactively reduce the risk of contamination from known pathogens?
If I can jump in here, this is a great question, and Daryl alluded to causality for the failures, and he says that this was preventable because most of it was attributable to sanitation failures. And so there are some very interesting technologies in use on the horizon, in development that will help out in plasma activated water, for instance, for cleaning zone 1 surfaces in a food processing plant, and for improving the overall microbial quality of irrigation water potentially is a great intervention measure. Another development, UVC, and especially UVC LEDs, light emitting diodes, are very promising for disinfection and cleaning and sanitizing of, again, zone 1 surfaces and other surfaces within the food plant. Hydroxyl radicals are emerging as an important intervention in environmental management in the food processing facilities. And then, of course, we should all be cognizant of developments related to AI. I think AI has great upside, but we're not there yet. The great upside, for me with AI has to do with the potential for risk assessment, understanding the risk in the food processing. Thanks.
Yeah, that's good. So while we're talking about surveillance, Larry, let's explore an adjacent topic. The current administration's workforce reduction actions have gutted FDA's food inspection capabilities and severely impacted USDA inspection personnel as well. And the fewer inspectors mean potential blind spots in enforcement and increasing reliance on self-regulation, maybe even some sort of voluntary compliance, especially in those smaller or resource-constrained food operations. So, Larry, I'll just start with you as what systems can be implemented by industry internally to maintain safety standards in the absence of regular inspection?
It's a very interesting question, and as usual, a complicated question. There's no simple solution. I was asked a similar question at a conference last week, and about this paucity of inspections and fewer inspections. Well, I said that this is, in my opinion, this is probably overrated in the first instance. Let's take the case of the deli meats, for example. Remember, those deli meats were manufactured under continuous inspection from FSIS. That meant that there was veterinarian representatives from the U.S. Department of Agriculture on site at all times when this product was being met. Yet we still had this great disaster and great harm done to public health. So, but to get to answer your question more specifically, look, it's tried and true the kinds of things that the industry can implement. HACCP's been around for 50 years. It's still emerging in some sectors of the food industry, but hazard analysis and critical control points, when properly done, is a good strategy. And I call it environmental management. A lot of people call environmental monitoring. So you watch it. I said you need to manage it. Environmental management is also increasingly important to protecting and preserving the public health and the so-called prerequisite programs. And I call them so-called because these are the fundamentals. These are the blocking and tackling fundamentals of food safety, GMPs, good hygienic practices, good agricultural practices. And on the point of inspections, rigorous, objective self-inspections will play a role going forward. The industry is going to have to live up to the expectation that it is the responsibility of those who manufacture and market an item of food who have the responsibility for food safety. The industry is going to have to step up.
Agreed, Larry. I think that something we all need to do every once in a while is to back up and get up to a higher level and reevaluate what you're doing every day. Sometimes we get so absorbed in our daily tasks that we miss things. We become blind to things, and you need someone to pull you out and to get you to look and say, hey, am I doing everything I should be doing? Whether that's someone from a sister plant, or that's your boss, or you hire a third-party consultant to come in and look with a new set of eyes. I think it can't hurt. Invite people in, have them come look at what you're doing and have them give you advice. Maybe there's something that you're missing because, well, we've always done it this way, but you never thought about doing something a little bit differently or more in depth or paying more attention to this corner over here. I think that sometimes we just get so absorbed in the minutia of our daily work, we get overwhelmed, we don't see things. So I invite everyone to step back and look at what's really going on day to day.
Robin, we've always done it this way are the most dangerous words uttered in the food processing industry. That's almost a guarantee that we're going to get in trouble.
Exactly.
The one thing that I would add, I think, both Larry and Robin hit the nail directly on the head. The reality of it is that if we think there's about a couple 100,000 food supplier manufacturers around the world. In terms of inspections, the U.S. only does about 800 to 1,000 for against the foreign manufacturers. It's really less than 1%. There's no way that we could actually inspect every one of the materials coming in, number one. Number two, how would we inspect it? If you're doing a micro testing, you'd have to hold the material. We don't have enough storage in order to hold the material until we get results. And then number three, what do you do if the product is bad? Are you going to ship it back? Who's going to incur the cost associated with that? So the reality of it is what was said, and Robin is right. We have to do this ourselves. We are who we want to be. If we want our food supply to be safe, the first part of when the FDA issued their notice back in 2010, it was prevention, intervention, and response. And the first one was about prevention. Prevention is incumbent to what Larry said, HACCP, GMP, all the prerequisite programs, all of that is critical. And one of the things that I always teach people, I give them my four: awareness, education, training, and measurement. And you continually do that until it's really rock solid in people's head of what they're looking for. Because for some people, you can't see micro. So it's really hard to explain to someone what salmonella is because they haven't seen it. And guess what? They're never going to see it. So you have to bring the awareness to them so that they can understand what it is. You educate them so that they have a competency level. They don't need to be a PhD, but they have to have a competency level of understanding what it does when it gets into the body, what organs it impacts, how does it, manifest itself in the human body. And then you do training. So you continually train in terms of what Larry mentioned, the environmental monitoring or management. Continually do zone 1, zone 2, continually train people how to do that. And then at the end, you measure. Measurement is done through auditing. It's done through different elements where you can take a look at things, learn from that. And if it's not done right, guess what? You go back to awareness. You don't go back just to education and training. You go back to awareness because something didn't happen in what they understood. All people are generally really smart in this field. I always used to tell people, if I really want to know what's happening in any of my factories, I go to my operator. They know everything that's happening in that, from when they cut the machine on, when they turn the lights on, to when they go home. That's what I think this is about.
I see everybody nodding vigorously here with with what you're saying, Daryl. And also the takeaway for me at the moment is we really are talking about getting back to basics and making sure you have that food safety culture inoculated into your systems and your people, because it's really kind of people over process, isn't it?
We'll be back with more SciDish in a moment. But first, a quick message from our sponsor.
This episode is brought to you by IFT FIRST, the food industry's can't-miss event coming to Chicago's McCormick Place July 13 through 16. Want to first look at the future of food R&D? This year, IFT FIRST is exclusively unveiling a groundbreaking AI solution that taps into 85 years of scientific data. It's not just another tech tool, it's a virtual co-developer designed with food scientists for food scientists. Experience breakthrough technologies, connect with global leaders, and be part of the conversations that matter. Don't miss this game-changing moment in food science. Register now at iftevent.org. That's iftevent.org.
And now, back to SciDish.
Well, listen, I'd like to tackle one more big topic today, and that is emerging risks from new contaminants and global supply chain disruption. We know that the pathogen landscape, including viruses, parasites, and harmful microbes, is ever evolving. Combined with these economic and geopolitical disruptions, food safety is increasing in complexity, especially when you factor in, global sourcing and value chain disruption. A couple of questions come to mind, and feel free to answer one or both. But one is, how are new and emerging contaminants challenging existing food safety frameworks in terms of supply chains? And or what are you seeing out there in terms of how companies are building supply chain resilience that can also enhance food safety? And I'm going to start with you, Robin.
Okay. One of the things that I've been noticing is, at least in the United States and in Europe, there's been a shift towards chemicals. That's something we've always focused a lot on, microbiology. Now we have to look at chemicals too. And then when you start adding in the changes that are happening as companies try and become more sustainable, they're changing packaging. And that can lead to a lot of things that we've never really thought about before. You're using a lot more recycled packaging. Does it have heavy metals in it? What kind of contaminants does it have? Does it transfer to the food? Things like that we've never thought about. Does this new fancy packaging contain an allergen, or does it have the same type of oxygen barrier that previous packaging had? So I think there's a big learning curve for all of us. And then when you add in the fact that companies are now starting to source their materials in countries that maybe we haven't gotten products from before. And there can be all sorts of different geopolitical realities. There can be different fraud types of things. There can be whole different cultures. It's hard to go over to the other countries and actually walk these plants and see what's going on. I think that we have a lot of challenges to keep things from getting boring in the next 10 years, and lots of things to look at. Every once in a while, someone will come to me and say, I'm going to bring this in, and it's coming from country X. And my eyes get big. I'm like, are you sure? Really? But I realize that maybe I don't know anything about that country, and I'm just making an assumption, so I need to take the time to go and educate myself and learn more about it, and collect all the documents and learn more about that facility as easily as I can. That's where I'm at with my challenges.
If I can jump in there again, I think, Robin, this is good. In a past life, my food safety and regulatory teams were the tip of the spear in opening new supply chains in very underdeveloped parts of the world. And so that meant that we spent lots of time on airplanes and on the ground in countries where, well, the infrastructure wasn't really there to support food safety assurance. So we went in and actually commissioned laboratories and set laboratories up to support our investigation of chemicals, our investigation of microbial contaminants, our investigation of pesticides and fertilizers and all the things that are necessary. So we need to continue to be very vigilant as we enroll new supply chain partners from regions of the world where we know that there might be some lack of development. And so let's talk about cyclospora briefly, where it's been mentioned several times. So cyclospora has only been around in the United States since about 50 years. And now it's reaching endemicity. We're finding it in leafy greens, broccoli, fruits and vegetables, and we can never adequately do traceback studies to find out where it's coming from. We know that it was introduced into the country from Papua New Guinea, from Haiti, from other regions of the world. So when you extend and project your supply chains into new regions of the world, you have to be cognizant and understand that there might be new challenges and make the appropriate compensations. Food safety science is a very complicated subject. It's not something that should be undertaken by the faint of heart or those who are not properly educated in the science.
Well said, Larry. Well said.
One other thing I would add to where Robin was going, something recent just happened. So last week, I think on Tuesday and Wednesday, the health secretary issued something called the MAHA report, which is Make America Healthy Again. In one of the sections in the report, it deals with the emergence of chemicals in the environment, some of which, to Robin's point, is entering into our food streams. So some of the things that you hear about is PFAS, which is per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, and looking at what we call forever chemicals that stay within the body in the organ structure. And so there is no filtration of those. And that's something that's a concern. We've all heard of what's called acrylamide in a lot of the baked products. And there are certain propositions, there's Prop 65, that regulates certain limits associated with that. You have bisphenol A, which I think is in some of the packaging, and they're worried about the contamination. You have nanoparticles. So if you think about all of these emergence, in addition to the microbe, just think about what happened. So today, right now, we have the three major streams of recalls. We have biological contamination, which is micro. You have undeclared allergens, and then you have what is foreign material contamination. I suspect that coming forward, we're going to have a section called chemical. And therefore, once you get to a certain level in a lot of these products and drinks, there may come a time where the FDA also demands that we recall beverages and products just associated with higher levels of contamination due to these chemicals. So again, these are emerging, but you can start to see the direction of where the government is going with this. And this is something that the food industry really has to take note of and make sure that we're looking at all these pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, and all the raw materials, because a lot of times those are not destroyed through any of the heating treatments or through some of the mechanism that we're using.
So last question. I'd like to ask each of you, what's one tip or piece of advice that you think food and beverage businesses can do to strengthen their resilience in terms of food safety? Robin?
Well, I don't know if I can limit this to one. I just have to say this. First off, take advantage of all the resources that are out there. Great organizations that we work with, like IFT, other organizations, have a lot of great resources that you can tap into to learn more. Also, reach out to your network of other people that do the same thing. Again, you can meet them at wonderful summer meetings, things like that. Don't be shy. Look them up on LinkedIn. Send them a note. Ask them questions. But also to build your resilience, don't forget to teach those that follow behind. We need to teach our staff all of these things that we've been learning over the years and grow them so that someday, as a quality person, you may be allowed to take a vacation.
Great. How about you, Daryl? What's your tip?
I really want vacation. I think I got my vacation when I retire. So I think the three areas is I'm going to probably repeat some of the things that Robin and Larry said. I think the first area is leveraging technology and sort of the digital aspect of where we are today. We hear this thing about blockchain. I think blockchain works for companies that can afford to manage a digital infrastructure if you go back from all the raw materials. So that would be number one. Number two, I think you may have mentioned it, even Robin, this is really the culture. It's the most important aspect of any food area, is really making sure that the culture of your organization, again, is aware, is educated, trains and measures food safety, and continually builds and educates. I love what you said in terms of building your staff. It's so important that the learning is not left out of the door when you leave, because these folks need to continue producing on and on. And then the last one is, I think Larry mentioned, was about, I would say, conducting competitive assessments and audits. That's done internally. You need to have a tough audit. It reminds me, I had a really, really tough audit. I did not make a lot of friends, but during the time period that we had the audits, we were really good. And so sometimes you need to look at yourself in the mirror and ethically say, are you here to really make sure you're protecting the company and consumers, or are you here to protect your friends? And sometimes you have to make those tough decisions.
And so it's already all been said, thanks to Robin and Daryl's eloquence. But vacation, yeah, that would be good. Haven't had one of those in a very long time. And actually, some time ago, I was invited to speak out in Korea, and the title of that paper, I will always remember. It was called "Food Safety Never Takes a Holiday," and I think that that's true. We need to understand that every day that we go to work and load up a line to manufacture an article of food, that there is a lot of science that needs to be brought to bear on that production line in that facility to ensure that the end products coming off that line are safe for human consumption and will not do damage to the public health. Food safety is important. We need to go back, like Robin said, and make sure that we train, and train again. And back to Daryl's point about objective inspections and audits. They need to be objective. And if some people's feelings get hurt in the process, so be it. The science demands it. Public health demands that we do this work objectively. Thank you.
Well, well said, all of you. And I really want to thank you guys for sharing your insights with our listeners today on SciDish. Daryl, Robin, Larry, you guys are food safety superstars. And listeners, IFT FIRST annual event and expo is just around the corner, July 13th to 16th, 2025 at McCormick Place in Chicago. There's loads of great content in our conference food safety track, including the session on July 15th, Why Are Food Recalls Still So Common?, featuring subject matter experts, including Cindy Jang of Food Safety Global and McDonald's, Jennifer McIntyre of Food Safety Strategy Consulting, and Peter Bigg, Chief Quality and Food Safety Officer with Global Food Service and Ingredient Supplier Leon Magnus. There's still time to register at iftevent.org, and we hope to see you there in Chicago. Thanks again, everybody.
Our thanks to IFT FIRST, food improved by research, science, and technology, for feeding this episode to your ears. Don't miss your chance to be part of the year's biggest food science and innovation gathering in Chicago this July. Connect with the minds cooking up tomorrow's innovations, get a taste of breakthrough technologies, and join conversations that matter for our food future. Register today at iftevent.org.
And that concludes this episode of Omnivore Presents SciDish. Thanks again to our guests for another amazing discussion. SciDish is produced by the Institute of Food Technologists and the editors of Food Technology magazine. To learn more about IFT and how we convene global food system professionals to advance the science of food, visit IFT.org. If you're not already a member, head to IFT.org/membership to find your place in the IFT community. For more insights, ideas, and innovation, check out our sister podcast, Omnivore, on the News and Publications page of IFT.org. Join us again next month for another timely discussion. This is Omnivore Presents SciDish.